6 o'clock. I'd like to call the August 18th, 2020 board meeting to order. This meeting of Sugar Grove Village Board will be held as outlined by Public Act 101-0640, which waives the Open Meetings Act requirement that a physical quorum of elected officials be present to hold a public meeting in the event of a public health disaster declaration and a determination by the village president. Governor Pritzker issued a statewide disaster declaration on June 26, 2020, and in response, President Shawn Michaels determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent at this time. Again, thank you all for participating. We have one member of the public here in attendance. May, could we have, is Sean Heron available? Sean, would you lead us in the pledge?
Muted.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Sean.
Glad it worked out.
Allison, would you do roll call, please?
Trustee Conan?
Here.
Trustee Lundy? Here. Trustee Walter?
Here.
Trustee Heron?
Here.
Trustee Cook?
Here.
President Michaels?
Here.
And Trustee Montalto, sorry. You were on the
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. No public hearings, no appointments or presentations. Any public items, public comments on items scheduled for action? Do you want to make a public comment?
Sure, I can. I'm here to listen to the discussion regarding the dirt pile and Hanford Farm. I've lived there for a little over 6 years. My property backs to the dirt pile. When I moved in, it was truly a dirt pile. There was dirt. It looked very much like it was not going to be a permanent structure. Since then, it has turned into a mountain of trees and brush and lots of shrubs. In addition, we now have cats that are living in there that come on my property and others' property. It's got this cat eventually. It's going to turn into a little bit of a safety issue. And 2 small dogs, I would never let them out like that. They go out in front of the door because it is not safe for them in my backyard because of this breaking out mountain of trees. My house is up for sale. It's been for sale for over a year. There's 2 houses for sale that to this property, and I believe those are the only houses for sale in Hanford Farm. And my house has been marked down the price 3 or 4 times. And everybody who sees my house asks me what's happening with that mound in my bedroom. So it's certainly impacting my ability to sell my house, and it's probably impacting the ability of others to sell as well.
Okay.
I would like some consideration in terms of if there is not something that can be done to the dirt pile to move it, would we make it look better? It looks horrible right now, and can we make it safe? Because I don't think it's safe right now, and I've heard coyotes out there at the end of the coyote season howling when they're catching their prey. My bedroom is right up to it, so it is definitely going to turn into a safety issue for the neighborhood. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Say thanks.
All right. Allison, do we have anybody that dialed in that would make comments? Or we had 2 emails? I'm sorry, Allison, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. We do have one, but we do have an attendee who's raising their hand. His name is Jeff Borick, and I'm going to kind of mess that up. But so I'm going to unmute him, and you can ask if he wants to talk. So Jeff, if you are on, you can unmute yourself now to talk.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to comment if that's okay. So I just prepared a quick statement. I might run it slightly over 3 minutes, but hopefully you can hang out with me. So my name is Jeff Boris, and I live at 1759 Hunters Ridge Lane. And since I built my house here in 2015, and the dirt pile being discussed is essentially in my backyard. Brenda, who you just heard from, is my neighbor. I'm also a member of the board member of Hannaford Homeowners Association, and I'm here to represent the greater voice of the neighborhood. And we have a number of issues with the dirt pile that I would like to address with the village board. My wife and I chose to build our house here 5 years ago, and at the time we expected growth would continue throughout the neighborhood and believed the dirt pile would diminish quickly. Despite a number of homes being built, the dirt pile, by my estimation, has been reduced by less than half of its original size in a 5-year time frame and has remained quite an eyesore for years. So, as Brenda mentioned, we have 3 homes for sale surrounding the dirt pile. All of the homes have been on the market for some time now and have not sold, while other homes in the neighborhood seem to move in a reasonable time. My next door neighbor Brenda's had specific comments from prospective buyers regarding the dirt pile and concerns with its future. No homeowner should be put at a disadvantage because of lack of action on such an issue. Our taxes are already high enough, and we don't need another strike against us when trying to sell our homes. It is also worth noting that none of the lots along Hunters Ridge Lane that back to the dirt pile have been developed since I've been in my house. Again, 5 years, but it's been a lot longer than that. While I can't say that the dirt pile is the only issue with selling homes or lot, I can say it is a large issue and needs to be dealt with to put us on a level playing field with the rest of the lots in the subdivision and other homes in Greater Sugar Grove. Contractors often use the dirt pile to dump landscape waste such as grass clippings, dirt, gravel, or whatever else they think will blend in with the pile as opposed to disposing of it in a proper manner. This further increases the unpleasantness of having the dirt pile in the middle of the neighborhood. The dirt pile is a safety issue. Kids often frequent the area in both winter and summer. If they progress to the top of the pile, one slip and fall could lead to significant injuries. Thankfully, this has not occurred yet. Furthermore, the tree growth invites wildlife such as coyotes that would put anyone or homeowners' pets in harm's way were they to encounter the animal directly. If the dirt pile is not removed, how does the village plan to deal with the issue if the pile becomes landlocked? This is a real possibility for the future, as there are only a few adjacent lots that need to be developed for the dirt pile to become landlocked. These last few points are several observations I have regarding the future of the dirt pile. Based on figures I have seen, there is more than ample dirt in the village-owned dirt pile by the north entrance of the neighborhood to support future home development. Developers could easily use that dirt pile in question if needed, or they could accelerate the removal of the dirt pile in question if they so believe they will need it. Overall, I believe there was an oversight in the original agreement with the village. The HOA should not be responsible for managing this because original developers went bankrupt and didn't complete the neighborhood.
Jeff, could you wrap up, please?
Yep, okay. Okay, my last and final point really is the general complaint as to the efficacy of this process. This issue has been in process and in discussion with the village for over a year now. There's been no movement on the issue, and we are no closer to a solution today than we were a year ago. It's time to get this resolved and lay the groundwork for a fully developed community per the original design and give the residents of Hannaford the neighborhood they were promised.
All right. 3 minutes are up. Thank you. All right. Any other public comments?
So if anyone who is attending remotely wants to use the raise the hand feature, that is how I will know to unmute you. So there are a few more, but there were no more hands raised. But I do have one email comment to read, so I'll do that and just keep an eye out. So this is from Bill and Mary Leonard. As a tax-paying resident of Sugar Grove, I strongly object to the large dirt hills that have occupied a significant amount of property in the subdivision of Hannaford Farm for the past 16 years. It has been brought to my attention that builders have been taking dirt from these hills and using it on lots they are developing in the area. These builders have not been paying for the dirt they remove from these hills owned and located on Hannaford Farm property. Additionally, I have learned that certain builders have been doing unauthorized dumping of dirt, concrete, and other debris on this Hannaford property and also Village of Sugar Grove property. I believe that it is important that the Village of Sugar Grove come to a resolution on the removal of these dirt hills, as well as the enforcement of prohibiting unauthorized dumping in Hannaford Farm and the Village of Sugar Grove. Finally, I believe that as village president, as well as an involved builder in this situation, Sean Michaels should recuse himself from any involvement in this issue. There are no more hands raised. The next comment is actually not on the agenda, so it would be read at the later public comment.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll close that portion of the agenda. May I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Any requests to remove an item? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please, Allison.
Trustee Montalto?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Walter?
Aye.
Trustee Cook? Aye. Trustee Conan?
Aye.
Okay, motion approves. No general discussion items. Renewable residential electric aggregation. Is that Matt?
Yes. Allison, I don't know if you want to just click on it to pull it up or. Okay. So this is mainly a discussion item. We're still working on this, but in October of 2018, the third-party municipal aggregation program was suspended when the bids came back higher than the ComEd rate. Every about 6 months, they will go out and look at bids to see if that is changed, and since then it has not changed. So we are still at a point where the third-party aggregation program is suspended because ComEd's rates are lower. So there is a new program out there that NIMAC, who does our energy consulting, and they have been presenting where the community can get renewable energy at different levels. You can be at 100%, 75, 50, or 25, or 0. And they're going to be charged the same ComEd rate. The rates would not change since we are still at a third-party price where it's higher than the ComEd rate. No price change would happen for residents or small businesses. And what this program does is it will have the company, whoever gets that bid for the renewable energy, would get wind RECs. So basically wind energy would come and they would purchase wind RECs. And depending on the type of the level of renewable energy that we use, they do a civic contribution. So essentially it would be a contribution back to the village depending on the level of renewable energy that you go with. So the more you go with, because it is more expensive, the less civic contribution you would get. So the lower number percent of renewable energy for the village, the higher your civic contribution would be. That would come from the provider. We're still working on, there's 2 providers that do this. We're working on getting quotes from both of them and seeing what different types of levels we can get. And essentially what this would do is when you, if you do go to certain levels, 100%, you would become on the list for the EPA for green communities. You would get a sign for the village that when people come in, it would say that it's a renewable green energy community. And again, there's no cost to the village, and there's no cost to the residents to have this happen. They would still be provided by ComEd and billed by ComEd at the same rates they currently are. So the only thing is it would say that they're being supplied with renewable energy. The that this would work is right now every individual account in the village of Sugar Grove is rated at an individual household, and everyone will pay the same rate. So that's how they balance out staying at a ComEd rate. Is that some people may be lower, some people may be higher, but on an average, everyone's going to be paying the same ComEd rate. So again, no cost to a resident to be on this program. They are able to opt out of the program if they do not want to, and they would just stay with ComEd. And also, if anybody is already on their own third-party contract individually, they would not be part of this program since they do not, since they have their own contract currently.
Okay. Is there any action that needs to be taken tonight?
No, this is more discussion. It was just kind of just to introduce it because it is a new program. We are going to be looking on September 1st meeting to have our energy consultant, NIMEC, Dave Hoover, will be able to help and answer more questions if there are some. And we're hoping to have the pricing back as far as different levels of the renewable energy and what that civic contribution would be that the village would receive. So I can answer questions on the program itself right now if there is any.
I don't have any. Anybody have any questions?
No, I think we just got to wait and find out what dollar amount we're talking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got one quick and probably stupid question. So how does this affect if a resident's already getting solar energy? Because there are some residents who have solar panels or getting solar energy that way. And I think they sell it back to ComEd or whatever. They get a discount.
Right.
Does this affect that at all?
No. So if they have a different type of program, so basically anybody that's on just a straight ComEd bill would become this renewable energy, and everyone would get a notification because you do have the option to opt in or out. So if you do nothing, they would opt in. If they want to opt out, they would be out. So essentially, if they're paying less right now for ComEd, they're not going to be in that program if they have the solar.
Okay.
Okay. We'll bring this back up at the next meeting. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Okay. Next, Hannaford Farm topsoil stockpile.
I think that's me to introduce the topic. I think the board's aware that the Hannaford Farm HOA some time ago has brought the issue forward as far as the topsoil stockpiles in the subdivision, and the village has been trying to work with the HOA. Their representative is, I believe, the president of the HOA, Matt Bonney, who unfortunately had to work today, so he cannot be a part of the meeting tonight. And then also with a representative of Badge 323, which is the I believe the largest vacant lot owner out there, and Badge 323 is the group that a number of years ago bought most, if not all, of the vacant lots after the original developer failed and went into bankruptcy. And Badge 323 bought the vacant lots and negotiated an annexation agreement amendment with the village that they agreed to complete some of the improvements that the original developer did not complete in the subdivision. The primary ones being doing the final lift on the roads throughout the subdivision and some and stormwater improvements, and obviously any punch list items with water or anything. Really, the focus at that time was on the public improvements. And what was created as part of that process is what we refer to as the FILOD fee, FILOD, fee in lieu of developer. And because the developer went bankrupt, the village tried to pull the letter of credit. The bank denied the letter of credit, and the FDIC took the bank over. The village sued, and the court basically said, what the FDIC and bank did was essentially unfair, but it was legal. So the village was not able to collect on the letter of credit. So to do the outstanding improvements, badge 323, there was a list of improvements they agreed to complete, and the village instituted this fee that we charge on every permit for a vacant lot for a new house. The idea being that the homes that were already out there, they paid their fair share, when they bought their house. That was part of the purchase price that went to the builder who bought the lot from the developer. So the concept was that the vacant lots would take on that burden. The legal mechanism essentially is that the way the annexation agreement is structured, all subsequent property owners have an obligation through the annexation agreement. So that's kind of the legal method to enact this fee load fee. You can't get a permit unless everything's done, and the way everything is going to get done is by paying this fee. So as each lot comes in, we would amend an individual annexation agreement to say, you paid your fee, you're done, you're good. And generally, it's worked pretty well. Over the years, there's been a few items that weren't on the original fee load list as far as improvements that weren't aware of at the time. Relatively minor. There was some drainage work done at the quote front of the subdivision, if you will, and I think there was a couple sections of sidewalk that it got installed that weren't originally identified. So where we sit today is the HOA has this dirt pile, two dirt piles. One's on HOA property and one's actually on property that the village owns. That's intended to be a combination of Denny Road extension, and it's long been identified as a probable or likely water tower site, or a portion of one. We need a little bit of additional land, but so there's two dirt piles out there. The south one, or the main one in the middle of the subdivision, if you will, is roughly 25,000 cubic yards of dirt, and the north one is about 7,500 cubic yards of dirt. There's roughly or very close to 50 remaining vacant lots. If you count the backyard and the front yard, the consensus, I guess I would say, of the village and the builder, the main builder out there, badge 323, is somewhere, probably maybe 300 cubic yards per lot is typical, on average. So you can kind of do some quick math and say, okay, well, if you got 50 lots left, 300 cubic yards, 15,000 cubic yards, and there's, about 32,000 cubic yards out there. So there's a lot of excess dirt. So where we're at is, village staff, village engineer, the HOA representative, the badge 323 representative, and then two of the village trustees, Sean Herron and Heidi Lendy, have participated over the last few months in several conversations trying to figure out how to, a plan to deal with the dirt. The immediate issue, the dirt's out there, as been stated. There's, scrub trees and that, which just typically happens on them. It's trying to figure out, how does this get addressed? What's the timetable for it to get addressed? And quite frankly, who funds it? How's it get paid for? So while I think that there's been good communication and conversation with that working group, we have not developed a solution to date. And, Trustee Herron is part of the committee. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Sean, but my understanding is you thought it was appropriate to update the whole board and see if anybody had any thoughts, and maybe there's some ideas out there that the working group hasn't come up with to potentially resolve it. But hopefully that gives you kind of a background of where we're at and where we got to and kind of why we're talking about it tonight.
Sean or Heidi, do you want to add anything to Brent's comments?
Yeah, I think Brent was right. I just want to get everybody together to talk about this stuff. We lived in Settlers Ridge, and we still own property in Settlers Ridge, and having all those issues there that didn't get done after the developer went under was really frustrating for us as homeowners. So I can empathize with the residents of Hannaford Farm and dealing with that. I mean, if it was a matter of just the 15,000 cubic yards that could eventually be spread out, that's one thing. But we're talking there's an extra 17,500 yards of cubic yards of dirt. And it's been an issue that people are, I don't know if it's other developers, like some of the comments have said, or who it is, but there are people dumping stuff there at this point. And I think, like Settlers Ridge, once we got that settled and we started cleaning stuff up out there, fixing stuff up, I know residents were a lot happier, and then development started. I would just like to see, ideally, I would like to see a timeline for getting this stuff done. But mostly I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say, other ideas. I think in the meetings we've come up, we're struggling to find a point where everybody's, and not everybody's going to be happy, but everybody feels that what's being asked is fair. So along with the timeline, I think the village needs to take the reins and see that something happens to get this stuff done. And then I'm not sure, Heidi, if you had anything, you can go ahead now too.
Yeah, no, I agree with Sean. I think it's time that the village does step in and get a time frame for the residents there. I think they've waited quite a while, and yes, there's going to be, some back and forth on how it's going to be paid for, but I think we need to say, okay, this needs to get done, and we need to just figure it out so that we don't leave them sitting for another how many years with that pile there. That is, I mean, there's going to be a lot of dirt we have to get rid of.
Yeah, I think it's been 15 years.
Yeah. So we need to step in and get this done now, I think.
Yeah, this is Ryan. I just want to make one comment now, and I've got a few more later, but I just wanted to bring the magnitude of this pile is. It's not only just the pile you see. I was hoping that the engineer overstated it. And just so you guys know, I'm in the business of aggregates, cements, company, largest purchaser of all this product nationwide. And I'm a finance guy that deals with this day in and day out. And it just not only the pile, but then it also is very high further out from the pile. So it's deceiving. It's not just the pile you see. There's a lot more to it. But I just want everybody to know that 32,300 cubic yards, you're wondering what's a cubic yard or what does that mean? If you convert that to tons, that's 38,760 tons. And if you were to not just, dump trucks don't haul as much as a tractor trailer, which is the longer trailer. Those can take up to 25 tons per load. We're talking 1,550 large truckloads of dirt. And if you convert that just to the excess that they're estimating, you're at 950 truckloads. So I hope that puts it in perspective. I won't even get into the cost because there's so many different variables, but just the trucking alone without the front end loader, it all depends on how far this dirt has to travel is going to dictate a lot of the cost. But I just want to put the truckload number out there, and that's a very fair, accurate number if the estimates by the engineer is correct on the cubic yards.
Is there a way to sell it? I mean, if people are looking for black dirt, would it be profitable to try and sell it instead of paying it?
From our meetings, Rick, the representative from Badge 323 said that he's asked and nobody's buying right now. There's a lot of those dirt piles around.
Okay.
Yeah, Rick, we've spoken to at least one company that sells dirt, if you will, and I'm going to be looking at Michelle probably to refresh me on some of the numbers here. But essentially, my understanding is right now the dirt market is soft, I guess would be a way to put it, where they've said that, you know, if they were asked to come in to quote sell the dirt, you know, let's say they got set up first thing in the spring, their best estimate is that it would take them 2 full construction seasons to sell all the dirt. And then the way the market is right now, they would not pay anything for the dirt. And in fact, they would expect somebody local to remove all the trees, to put up the silt fencing, to maintain, if necessary, you know, a gravel access drive to the dirt pile, if you will, to do the street sweeping. So that there would still be, you know, fairly significant costs even to bring a company in to, you know, sell the dirt. You know, like say the company wouldn't charge, but they wouldn't pay anything either. And, you know, it's, you know, right now, I think from what we learned from the, you know, the company that does that, there's just not a big demand in this area for dirt. And it's hard to, you know, to think that there will be over the next couple of years. You know, separate from that, I know some of us have had different conversations and they've all kind of come back the same. And Michelle, if you don't have a number, that's okay. But, you know, what was kind of the ballpark estimate for the, you know, for the silt fence and the tree removal and oversight and street sweeping? I mean, were we pushing 6 figures just to do that?
We never came to a final number on that. Our conversations got diverted a little bit, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, six digits. That being said, the other thing is they don't commit to a time frame. So it's based on demand and the demand in the community. So yes, 1 to 2 years is what they think, but it is what it is as they are able to get rid of the dirt.
Can I throw something wild out there? About 2 years ago, maybe, we had that conversation with the company that wanted to use the old quarry off of near the middle school and put road construction type stuff in there. And I'm wondering, is there any way to pair these two together, seeing as their proximity is so close, to fill that old quarry with clean dirt? It maybe would be easy to move from one location to the other and help get that closer to being a lot that could be developed on.
It's a good thought.
Yeah. I think it's something we certainly can inquire about. I don't know that anybody could just off the top of their head answer that one for you.
Okay. Just a thought. It's a big hole in the ground that could use dirt, and we've got dirt looking for a place to go.
Just keeping in mind, you still need the truckers to get there, and there is still a large fee that would be dedicated to that just to move the dirt from point 1 to point 2.
And one more wild idea, Rick, it probably wouldn't happen, but when you look at a pile of dirt and you look at a cornfield, soybean field, it doesn't take much. You spread that all out, it doesn't even exist anymore. I mean, there are some farms north of us. I don't know if any farmer would allow just, we just got to get rid of this stuff. And if you just get their topsoil back, they lose topsoil throughout the decades. But you, like Michelle said, trucking is going to be one of the highest costs. But if you're only going less than a mile, it cuts the cost way down, way down. And the other conversion, just to give you, if you were to take all that dirt and if you just hired 1 truck per day, taking out 25-ton loads, you can an 8-hour day, you can get 24 loads out of there. If they're doing 20-minute round trips, it's going to take 65 days just to haul that much out with a continuous truck. 65 days. So it's a big deal.
Well, those are a couple good ideas. If you have others, I'd say at this point, any idea is a good idea. You could submit them to staff, and we could look into them. So, any other comments?
Yeah, I guess my question after all the meetings that I don't know how many it's been that the staff has had, and Heidi and Sean, What seems to be the true issue that we can identify that's preventing the village from overseeing this project? Because we don't need ideas onto how to get rid of it. I think we can figure that out. It's more to put action to this plan and hopefully use the board and the village staff to facilitate this going forward. Now, my understanding is that there's something with the annexation agreement that prevents the village from spearheading this this removal of dirt, if you will. So can we identify what we need to do as a village to, kind of be the lead on this and what that looks like?
Yeah, I think the short answer to your question is cost and who pays for it. The little bit longer answer is that the agreement with badge 323 regarding the phi load, any change to the phi load structure, if you will, where the village would take some type of a lead, would require a change to that agreement, which would have to be, negotiated and agreed to by both parties. So to use the phi load fee, unless badge 323 is willing to take the lead, because the amount they can be reimbursed through that is open. The village would have to agree to it, but the amount that the village can do is capped, where they would have to agree to an amendment. So the other option would be through building permit fees, essentially, if you want to, that's one option. I shouldn't say it's the only option, but it really comes down to who's going to pay for it. And essentially, you've got three parties. You've got the HOA, you've got the village, and you've got the vacant lot owners, which is, I'm not sure, I want to say there's, 5 or 6 maybe owners total, but, 1 or 2 groups control the majority of them. So, it really comes down to the faster you want the dirt gone, the more expensive it is the one kind of dynamic. And then the other one is who pays for it. I believe that the village could, one method or another, make that decision and implement it. Obviously, if the village wanted to write a big check, the village could. If the village wanted to have the vacant lots pay for it, I believe the village could, stop discounting the permit fees and charge, quote, full permit fees and use, or some portion more and pay for it that way. Or I believe the village, because it is located on HOA property, the village could cite the HOA and say, you're violating the stormwater ordinance. You have this problem there, fix it. So I think, the village, I think there's methods for the village to do that. But the biggest issue is how fast does everybody want it gone, and whether it's, gone this fall for a real lot of money, trucking it somewhere, or if it takes more time through other methods. I think there's still at the end, going to be, some level of significant cost. Who's going to pay for it? And that's one where, and I'm not expecting an answer tonight, certainly, but I don't think the task force, if you will, I don't think that, we can't answer that question. We can kind of give you some of the different options, and we can develop kind of what the costs would be. But, right now, the 3 parties involved, no surprise, nobody is raising their hand saying, hey, we're willing to pay that cost. Certainly village staff has not, volunteered the village to pay for it. The HOA representative has said the HOA doesn't want to pay anything. And the badge 323 has said, they would have no problem if the projected remaining phi load dollars, which is 75,000 plus or minus, is kind of what's projected to be without the dirt issue to be remaining. Badge 323 has said they have no problem money going toward resolving this, but the concern is, depending upon what's done, that more than likely is not going to be enough money. So where does the balance come from? And I think the village would be my guess would be the village and the HOA would also agree to say, yeah, if there's existing phi load money available, use it. I think all 3 parties would agree to that, but the concern is it may not be close to enough money depending upon the timetable and how this is resolved.
I know that one of the discussion items was moving the investment group wanted to move black dirt to the back of their lots. Did they give an estimate as to the cost of that?
Yeah, yeah, they said that would be about 70, actually, just under $80,000. But what that does is that's to, you got to get a SWIP permit, Michelle, stormwater permit, there's already been some engineering dollars spent to do the application for that. So you have to get a permit from the IEPA. That you have to put silt fencing around the existing dirt piles, around the lots that it's going to. You have to pay for the end loader and the trucks. You got to pay to remove the trees. If you include all of that to kind of do, that project, you're pushing $80,000, and that only moves a little over 7,000 cubic yards. And even if you take it all from the main pile, you've still got 17,000 cubic yards there. And I did get to have today, this morning, I was able to talk to Matt Bonney, who's representing the HOA. This afternoon, was able to talk to Billy McHugh, who's representing Badge 323. And independently, I think both of those gentlemen recognize that that's a significant amount of money to spend, and it doesn't resolve, the HOA's concern. Because you still have 17,000 cubic yards of dirt on that pile. You still have 7,500 on the other pile. Granted, there's still some vacant lots left that need dirt. But kind of the main pile would get cleaned up. The trees and that would go away. Obviously, somebody would have to, start maintaining that on a regular basis, or it's all just going to come back. So I don't think anybody thinks that alone is a solution. It may be a step of a bigger solution. But if I don't think anybody thinks it's appropriate to spend $80,000, accomplish that, and then have no plan.
Agreed. And it sounds like that $80,000 doesn't cover all of the vacant lots either.
As drawn out, that would be 29. So there'd be roughly, 21 other ones that could theoretically accommodate the dirt. Whether those lot owners would want the dirt now or not, I don't know. But yeah, they would have a need for dirt as well. But yeah, that doesn't include any cost to move additional dirt to those lots. And, and those lots are going to take about 5,000 cubic yards. So you're still, left with a considerable amount of topsoil.
Okay. So just my working thought is I've always been a proponent. I know that when I got on the board, I said something to Brent about the expiring annexation agreement with Badge 323, I believe was last August. And I had some phone calls from other vacant landowners that got notification that the building permit fee, I think, went to $29,000, which is astronomical, right, for a building permit fee. And then you have the impact fee, which is, I think, Matt, correct me, $15,600 or thereabouts, right? So to buy a piece of property in Hannaford and then incur $45,000 in fees before you put a shovel in the ground is kind of crazy. But in light of the situation where we are, a couple of questions I have regarding the fact that Sean brought up landlocking. Michelle, can major machinery drive over the gas line and haul that dirt out? Or is that just not a safe way to go, one? Because if that's not an option, then yes, there's only private landowners that would be able to grant access to the dirt pile at this current state.
That's something we'd have to coordinate with the gas company. I couldn't answer that until I spoke with them. So,
I mean, I think there's roads that go over the gas main. So can it be done? Yes. The question would be, what, if any, would be required as far as, something placed over it, whether it's, I'm looking at you, Ryan, the big rocks, versus, some type of paving or plating or something, or temporary, the different things you see in places. Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that. Could it be done? Absolutely. Is it going to be expensive? We don't know.
Yeah, I do know NICOR is super sensitive about their pipeline. I live alongside it. I would hope that they could come to a resolution to drive over it. Like I said, we drive over it on the roads. I've always questioned them on that. But when we did our landscaping, when the neighbors did it recently, I mean, they're like, do not drive anything on it. They couldn't even, just a little front end loader skid steers. They don't even want that on the property. So that's what they've told us, but who knows what they'll tell the village.
So Matt, can you get us, the village board, a copy of what the current situation is with the FILO? How much money has been brought in? How much money has been paid out? Any outstanding invoices that haven't been paid, to get a sense of how much is in there? I assume it's all spoken for and you're still waiting on more lots to be developed and take in that impact fee. But I guess my question is there anything right now to work with to start moving dirt? And if so, can we use that? Is this board agreeable to using those dollars to move that? And if not, then I would, as much as I discourage it, would say there's no other option but to maybe have permit fees higher in Hannaford Farm to help facilitate moving this dirt. I would love anybody else's opinion, but it's been a super long time in here, and the growth, I mean, when you look back at old photos of the subdivision, all the lots are maintained from front to back. These scrub trees that are growing wildly they're very invasive. They're hard to keep track of. They're hard to cut down. They're getting bigger. Lot owners are just mowing around them or just mowing the front of the lot. And so then you have these huge trees that shouldn't be there. So there's a multitude of issues going on in the subdivision beyond the dirt pile that I could go on forever, but I'm just trying to figure out how we get to a place where the investment group can sell their lots and turn a profit because the neighborhood is looking good. It's easier to sell. There are people that love the homes in Hannaford Farm and they want to build near them, but there's certain deterrents. The wild trees that grow everywhere, this giant dirt pile, unfinished areas. And so my mentality would be if it were all buttoned up, the idea would be they would be more attractive and more appealing to build a home on. So helping facilitate, clean this up and get it out also would spur development in this, like Sean was saying, and that's kind of how it happened in Settlers Ridge.
Matt, I think you probably have the number literally at your fingertips, and this would be projecting there's roughly, I can't remember the number, but say, $30,000 worth of punch list items yet to be completed. So if Matt assumes, the engineer's estimated cost is the actual cost, there's a little bit of room in the village part that, before we hit our cap that we assume we'll spend all that. I mean, we're spending dollars every time, we have Michelle attend one of these meetings. So if we assume, those costs and based on the current fee we're charging, and then Matt, the number was 70-some thousand, but then as part of this process, there has been engineering costs to go out and survey the dirt piles, and that's approximately $5,000. That would be a deduct from the number we've been working on most likely. So I think, Matt, were we right at like 75 or 6 before that last 5,000?
We were at 83.
Oh, okay.
So before
I would say we're down to like 78,000 right now is our projected kind of balance.
At full build out.
Correct.
You would have, okay.
And not changing the FILO, currently paying the $15,595.40.
Okay.
So, but I think that circles back to, this proposal would essentially spend all that money, but is it worth it to spend that money and still have a significant, amount of dirt there? Is that really a gain, And at least from what Matt Bonney said to me this morning, representing the HOA, he said absolutely not, that the HOA is not, in favor of anything other than a full solution.
I do have a question though. So when a home is built in Hannaford currently, and they finish, their landscaper goes over to the dirt pile and they grab what they need to finish the grading on their lot. why would we be paying a builder or landowner as part of the FILO to move dirt they want? I'm not quite sure. We don't pay them to do that now. Why would we be paying $70,000, whatever it is, for them to move dirt to 29 lots?
Well, first I would say, there's obviously no agreement on anything, but I believe from Badge 323's perspective is, where they're looking at it saying it's being requested of them to do something with the dirt. Absent that, I believe they're perfectly happy with the situation as is. They don't have a desire to have dirt moved to their lots at this point in time. I believe from their viewpoint, they're saying, hey, if you want us to, to facilitate moving this dirt now when we don't need it, and potential, I think in their mind they say, okay, well that does, create some level of complication as far as, they don't know exactly how much dirt they need on each lot. You're not going to put it where the driveway is going to go and that. So where do you place it that it doesn't interfere with construction? I think that's some of the comments we've heard from them where they're like, we'd love, they prefer to leave the dirt where it is. So I think they're looking up saying they don't want to spend any money to move dirt right now that they don't need moved. Of course, that doesn't mean that anybody else is going to say, and that's where I circle back to, and this is, my personal opinion. I think both, Billy and Matt agreed to spend $80,000 to move dirt right now and not have a plan for the balance of it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I think, through the conversations, the questions came up, what dirt could you take? How much would it be? What would it cost? So I think that was answering those questions. I don't know that Badge 323 is necessarily advocating to say, this is what we need to do. I think they'd prefer to say, leave the dirt alone and let the builders use it. And, when we get further along, we'll have a better handle on, were the usage estimates accurate and how much is left to deal with.
One other thought, I'm sorry. What about, so I don't have the numbers in front of me that you sent out to the board, but so I know that the village doesn't want the dirt pile on their land either. That's something we're going to have to deal with down the line. But because there is so much in the center of the subdivision, in an effort to get this is the one that impacts the residents the most. The one on the north side is kind of out of sight, out of mind. It doesn't affect anyone. Is it possible to give away as much dirt as we can, whether it be set up, shop, Michelle, with whatever company can come in and whatever that looks like, and then move additional dirt to the village's dirt pile that would be there to finish all lots, so that when somebody does come in, McHugh Builders or Eddie or whoever, they build a home, there's no dirt pile in the center of the subdivision, but there is adequate amount of dirt on the village's property to use that black dirt. And then there's truly a restoration plan. I know that Hannaford Homeowners Association, as part of their plan, is prairie grass throughout that dirt pile where it exists now. So once it gets to final grading and it meets engineering for stormwater, then the HOA wants to put prairie grass. So if we can facilitate that, moving the dirt pile, keeping dirt on site for the developers, but giving away the excess, because as Ryan stated, it's a boatload, and at least get this project moving, because you can still pull from the north pile.
I guess my thought on that would be, yes, but one form or another, that dirt's being paid to move twice. Because somebody's paying to move it to that pile, and then somebody's paying to move it to the lots eventually. And, and when you talk about, and I'm not saying that's a bad idea, it wouldn't make sense, but yeah, if you're going to move it over there, I suppose you could reduce some of your costs as far as, silt fencing and seeding that would go on the vacant lots. But I don't know, based on the cost estimate, that the savings you would have as far as putting it there versus vacant lots is significant. I would think the cost of moving it twice would be quite a bit more, if that makes sense.
Well, yes and no. I think the cost to move it is the cost to move it, because then the private property owners are not silt fencing and trying to maintain, which that sounds like it could just be a nightmare. we see how the lots are maintained now. So my question and more of a statement is that if the dirt pile were moved, and Ryan, I'm sure, could compute these numbers in seconds, if you gave him, I think it's 7,500 cubic yards on the north pile, what is the amount of excess dirt tells us how much we need to move from the middle of the subdivision. And Ryan can give us hauling, from point A to point B.
Sure. Well, I think, my understanding is that it's probably 300 cubic yards per lot for the rear side and front yards. My understanding is a pretty good average, kind of estimate is what will be needed on the vacant lots. Kind of the idea was that 250 yards could be placed there now, and they probably need about 50 yards on average in additional that they would want to grab kind of, at the tail end to put in the front yard of the house. So if you got 300 cubic yards per house, 50 lots, you're 15,000. You've already got 7,500 on that pile. So you would move 7,500 to that pile and you'd have, 17,000 remaining on the large pile that would have to get hauled off site. I think I'm doing my math right. I'm looking at the engineer.
How many cubic yards, Ryan, fit in a semi?
A cubic yard is about, it depends on if it's wet or not, but it's about 2,400 pounds. So you have to put 25, you can only put 25 tons. If you're
about 15 cubic yards.
15 cubic yards, Sean, go in a semi?
Roughly, yeah. It depends how heavy they are. As Ryan's talking weight, you have weight restrictions, but 15.
Okay, my question then is going to say, that seems, you're saying that we need 300 cubic yards per lot, and he's saying that 15 cubic yards fit in a semi. I can tell you there's not that much black dirt. That many semis going to one property at 17,000 square feet?
I'm just telling you what the main builder out there is telling us, that they use about 300 cubic yards per lot.
I think that's why we have a dirt, because when someone finishes a house, they come with their landscaper and a couple of their little dump trucks, and they go over there and they fill their dump trucks and they bring it over, and you get about 2, maybe 3 dump trucks of dirt, and it's done. You're not getting semis of dirt on a parcel of land that's 7,000 square feet with a house and a driveway on it. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to get to the point where something happens. We have been having a conversation. I know Brent and I have had a conversation for over a year about this. It doesn't seem like Sean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean and Heidi, the information I'm getting from the HOA is that you're not making headway. So we can talk about this as a board, but it doesn't even seem like we're going to get anywhere with this discussion. So what's the plan moving forward, and how do we get something done?
Well, I think the progress we made with the discussions, Sean, Heron, and I were having with Brent and everything, was that we got some numbers from the engineer, so we knew how much dirt we were working with. And of course, we established pretty much no one wants to pay for it. And I think that I know at least Sean, Heron, and I believe, came to the same kind of feeling that something needs to be done now. We can't sit on this anymore. And it seems like the village is going to have to say, all right, this is the direction we're going, and just go, because otherwise it's just going to sit there. And we can't do it halfway. We can't just leave it, just move a little bit. And it has to be finished, it has to be graded properly when all the dirt is moved off. And I don't know, that's an additional cost that we don't have in there. I mean, I believe in some of the discussions that's, somewhat of a significant cost as well for that. Once you move all that dirt off, it has to be properly graded as well. So there's, it's a lot of work to be done. So we need to figure out, I think we need to get started. We need to figure out how we're going to get this paid for and what direction we're doing, so we know what exactly we're paying for, but we need to get all that dirt off of there.
I wish we could give some of our property owners, especially Brenda, who came and spoke, some sort of time frame so that when she has an interested party that is coming to look at her property, that she's giving a realistic time frame. I know that she has asked before what that looks like, and I gave time frames based on conversations I had, and those have come and gone. So in fairness to our tax-paying residents that are struggling and losing property value that want to get out, can we give them some realistic expectation?
That really depends on, is how, for lack of a better word, aggressive is the village going to be in identifying a funding source and how much? Theoretically, you could probably have it all removed this fall, but somebody's going to be paying a lot of money to somebody to truck it all to some undisclosed location. And, it's a hard question to answer. And, you got two kind of parallel things you have to work through at the same time, is that how much is the village willing to, have somebody pay? And that, kind of answers the question of how fast this can happen. And don't hold me to these numbers at all, but if we said, okay, we want this done this fall, I'm pretty confident we could get the proper permits. We could find a company that would find a place to take the dirt, and they would charge us a whole lot of money, and all that dirt could disappear this fall, and we could get it down to the proper grade. I think when the engineer went out there, they think the base grade is pretty close to what it should be. So I think that, we could get all that done, I believe, still this fall, but it's going to cost a lot of money. And if the village is willing to make that happen, like I say, the first thing you got to figure out is who's paying for it. And the other thing would be, okay, is it acceptable to bring in a company to try to sell it, not knowing how long it's going to take? Best guess right now is 2 years. And I don't know if they know, but in the dirt business, it may be, my guess would be, you may sit there for weeks with no activity at all, and then they find somebody that wants a significant amount of dirt, and then they may come out and there may be, dozens of trucks running for several days. And, I think it just depends on what the market is, how active that is. If that's an acceptable solution, then, the cost would be less. Still, we got to figure out who's paying for it. So, there's kind of two parallel paths, and, I don't know that we can get there tonight, but I think for the group that's been working on this, we're going to need some type of a direction as to where you want us to go. Because I think, and I'm looking at, Sean and Heidi and Tony and Walter and Michelle. I mean, we're kind of at the point where, absent some direction, we can keep running, we can spend time and dollars kind of thinking of different scenarios and trying to talk to people and say, hey, what about this? What about that? But, I think, sooner or later, we're going to need some indication of, how's it getting paid for and what's an acceptable kind of, budget, for lack of better.
I would say that it's totally reasonable to put it within the FILO fee, that moving dirt in Hannaford Farm shouldn't come out of regular tax dollars. I think that's kind of irresponsible, to be honest with you. But it should be within the FILO fee. That structure has been set up. It sounds like, you might have to increase permit fee to cover whatever not the permit fee, but the impact fee, the FILO fee, to cover the dirt removal. I'm not sure what else is out there. I think you said 30,000. So that doesn't seem like there's a lot. Matt, my screen changed. Was the 30,000 already in your 83, or is the 83 minus the 30 minus the 5?
The 30 is in the 83. We tried to incorporate anything that we could, that we knew of for now. So everything's in there except a cost for dirt pile removal.
And I know I spoke to Walter. There's some sidewalk that's not finished in some common area that might have to be addressed as well. But so I would ask, village staff and the group involved, Sean and Heidi, to find a way to get the village to be able to use dollars and get reimbursed through the FILO. If it sounds like they're capped right now per their agreement, work with the investment group to come up with a mutually agreed upon contract where the village can free up to use village dollars to get this moving. And that would be my recommendation. I don't know if anybody else has a recommendation to the group.
If I can just, I think it would be, rather than, FILOed versus permit fee, from my viewpoint, it's the vacant lots. So whether if the fee is going to be, assessed to the vacant lots, I don't think it necessarily, I think it's more of a legal question. Like I say, if you want to assess the fee through the FILOed, then you got to negotiate with badge 323 and, other parameters come into it, permit fee locks and this and that and the other thing. The other method is just to add it to the permit fee. And either way, it would be the vacant lots that are paying it. So, I guess it's somewhat irrelevant whether it's FILOed fee or permit fees. I think permit fees would be a path of less resistance, if you will. But it really comes down to are the vacant lots going to pick up that cost, or the HOA or the village, or some combination? I think we can work through the FILOed versus permit fee issue pretty easily. But it's just a question of, is the board comfortable? Who does the board want that, that cost to be against? I mean, like I say,
Can we get an idea what the cost would be to move that dirt? I know we're talking about the FILO fees right now and what money's there, but that's not going to move at all. I mean, is this something we can do some research on and get it?
Well, no, I believe, and I'm kind of looking at Michelle and Ryan on this one. I think between the two of you, and again, it depends on distance and things, but I think the hauling cost alone, I believe are we in the $200,000 range or more?
If you're paying prevailing wage, without talking to someone, but you could easily pay $25 a yard or $30 a yard. So if you're hauling away 15,000 or 17,000, I mean, you're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that just depends on where you're moving. That's assuming you're going to put it to like a regular CCDD facility and you're not hauling it somewhere closer. That would be good, but it could be a significant amount of cost. That's getting rid of it very quickly and just getting it out of the way and getting it to a place we know they would take it.
Yeah, I think, Rick, and this is somewhat ballpark, but it's not a crazy number to throw out there. Because me, I like to try to do math I can do in my head. So if you want to pay to haul this dirt out, the permit, the silt fests, the street sweeping, the final grading, kind of the whole thing, and make it all go away, you could be talking, say, $400,000. And you got 50 vacant lots left, so you would be adding $8,000 onto the current cost for every vacant lot. Obviously, if it's 300,000, it's 6,000 a lot. If it's 500,000, it's 10,000 a lot, if that's how you decide to do it. So I think, but that's kind of the magnitude of what we're talking about. If we're saying we want this resolved, whether it's this fall or next summer, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I think our understanding is unless something significantly changes in the black dirt market where there's a big demand for it next year, this fall or next summer, if you want it, if you want to know it's going to be done, you're talking those kind of numbers. And,
okay.
And that's where, we can refine that more for you, but, it kind of becomes one of, if we're talking, arguably $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 a lot, well, unless we have some idea of how that's getting paid for, whether it's permit / FILOed fees or village contribution or HOA or some combination, to some degree, I say we're kind of spinning our wheels. And again, I don't expect you guys to come up with an answer tonight and say, yep, this is what we want to do. I think really the goal tonight was to kind of let you know where we're at, and then presumably, we might be able to do a little bit more research on some specific things, but I think, you're really going to have to wrestle with how quick or how long, what's the time frame for resolving it? Because that's really going to dictate, methods and cost. And I'm kind of looking around at the, Walter, Tony, or Michelle, and, if there's anything that you think I'm missing from the discussions that we've had with kind of the working group, or you think what we've talked about is a pretty fair representation.
That's a fair representation of the situation.
Okay. We could bring this back in 2 weeks, just see if there's any progress. If, we can always table it or move on, but a lot of good discussion tonight. And I think staff knows that there's some work ahead of them.
Can we have somebody look into those, the options of a nearby field that Ryan had mentioned, or, Rick had mentioned the quarry, explore some options just to see if anybody nearby wants a whole heck of a lot of dirt. I mean,
yeah, we can try to track down the owners and just make the inquiry to say, hey, if we're looking to get rid of a whole lot of dirt, would you accept it? And maybe they'll say yes. They'd be glad to take it.
I mean, because then that would reduce some of the cost for the transport. If it doesn't hurt to ask.
Right.
All right, well, let's do that.
Just don't tell Michelle, because then we have to get engineering involved, and that's when the expenses start to come. No. All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that discussion. Staff reports. Any questions for staff? Matt, looking over the treasurer's report, I see state gaming license is pretty far down, way down, but all the other revenue looks down, or looks pretty good. Any other concerns on the revenue side?
The gaming license is all just down just because they're closed. They're not being able to operate, but we just looked at it, and looking at the sales tax, actually, we are not down. We're actually up from a year ago today. So it's not been as bad as we anticipated for now. So it just depends on how long this will go. But sales tax is pretty steady. I think it's up like 1 or 2% from last year at this time. And then use tax is up a lot, which we anticipated to happen as more online purchases are going to be happening and stuff that's out of state. So those are up for everybody. We've been having conversations within a group that I'm a part of, and looking at sales tax and use tax, and it's up significantly for everybody as far as use tax is concerned. Sales tax, we're one of the better off. It just depends on it depends on what you have within your community and what can open and what can close, and where your sales tax is diversified. And we haven't had much that's closed. Our main sales taxes are our stores that are essential businesses, so they haven't really had to close as much as other places have.
Okay. Tony, when do we expect to start working on purchasing snow and ice control supplies?
The salt is under the contract with the state, and probably we wouldn't buy any salt till the end of the year or beginning of next year.
Oh, okay.
Because we do have salt on hand.
Okay. Well, that was a large budget item, and we haven't spent any money, so that's good. It'd be good to keep that as low as possible. Okay.
Quick question for Tony. The Prairie and Gordon crossing, you sent out an email about a week or two ago saying they were going to close that off starting yesterday. It is not closed off yet. Has there been any change in plans? Because 47 is still a mess at Prairie, and 47, they're doing one lane in a stretch there today.
As of right now, it's scheduled to be closed starting this Friday.
Okay.
So we're day by day with an update. That's why it's already a week postponed. But right now it's penciled in for this Friday.
All right.
And they're
Hopefully
still planning on
47
paving Bliss and 47 on Monday?
I'm sorry, Sean, I didn't hear you.
Oh, no, that's fine. Are they planning on paving Bliss and 47 on Monday?
I believe they plan on getting it started Thursday or Friday with the binder coat. And yes, so then more paving next week.
Good.
The surface course is part of the IDOT contract that got pushed over to the 47 contract. So binder will get installed, but not the surface.
Okay.
Right. On Illinois 47 will all be handled by the Illinois 47 contractor for paving.
Okay. Good. It'll be nice to see that done and get those pedestrian paths done as well. So good to see progress being made over there. Any other questions for staff?
No questions, but one comment for Walter, just an update. I know at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we talked about the house at Prairie and Brookhaven with the evergreens over the sidewalk, and you said they'd been ticketed. Just so you know, they still haven't made any effort to trim anything.
Rhonda's aware.
Okay.
I had one question. What is the status? What do we need to do? Are we still in a holding pattern with the Park and 47 streetlight proposal with IDOT?
Yeah, we're essentially in a holding pattern. And one of the latest things that came up is with the submittal for the new fast food restaurant in that area. I think the latest idea is to add that to the information, if you will, and then reach out to the governor's office to see if we can get any assistance there to try to move it along. So I think we're going to try to add that, and timing right now seems to be we're hitting a pretty good spot with that new addition, and it's no secret, if you will, when elections are looming. Sometimes you can get somebody's ear a little bit better. Whether they actually can help us or not is a different thing. But at any level, people are generally more interested in local issues when they have elections coming up. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Trustee comments? Ted? Any?
Nothing for me.
Okay. John?
Nothing. Just got some EDC meetings today with you, Sean, and who was there? Brent and Walter. Thank you for the updates. It was good. We got some good development going on in Sugar Grove right now, and some prospects. So to be forthcoming, I suspect.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put it. Okay. Heidi?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Rick?
Nothing.
Ryan?
Nothing. Thank you.
Sean?
School starts, open house tomorrow, and school starts on Thursday. It's been quite interesting teaching on doing all of this stuff online. So buses are going to be out. Starting Thursday, and I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Be patient with your teachers.
Only for a week, then we'll all be quarantined.
Yeah, we'll talk more later.
Best of luck to you. Crazy. President's report. Had a good meeting with Chief Rollins and Brent last Thursday. Just police issues, going over use of force ordinance or policy and training that the police officers are doing make sure that we're staying on top of that. And Chief's credit, he's working with the staff to keep them updated. They review it frequently, so it's more of a second nature as opposed to thinking and what do we do now. So I feel that Chief Rollins is providing great leadership, and if there are any issues, we should address them with him so that he's aware of it and we can take proactive steps. But I really appreciate the Chief's time. And then I participated in a golf outing last weekend, which was a fundraiser for local food banks, and the Sugar Grove Food Bank will be receiving some money. And to that end, I'll be participating in the senior luncheon on Tuesday of this coming week, 25th. So I think they serve about 100, 125 lunches to seniors on that Tuesday. Okay. Any other public comments to come before the board? Allison?
Yes, we did have one more sent in through the email. It is by Debbie Dutkovich. Sorry about that. I've lived in Sugar Grove for 18 years. I live on Capitol Drive, and in spite of the digital speed sign, there are still many vehicles exceeding the limit. There is also, I feel, too much traffic on a residential street. I suggest that Sugar Grove install speed tables to discourage both the speed and amount of traffic. Secondly, a community garden would be a wonderful addition to Sugar Grove. I drive to Geneva and pay $65 each season to use theirs. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Joe is not here to provide an airport report. I'd like to get a motion to adjourn this meeting to go into closed session per exception of the Open Meetings Act, not take action, and to adjourn from there.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
First by Trustee Herron, second by Trustee Montalto. Roll call, please. Or Trustee Cook, excuse me.
Trustee Cook? Oh, Trustee Cook?
He said aye.
Okay, sorry. Trustee Montalto?
Aye.
Trustee Conan?
Aye.
Trustee Herron?
Aye.
Trustee Walter?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. So we will adjourn now, and then let's check in at 7:25. Give everybody 3 minutes to get a drink of water. Thank you all.